If you've ever watched a singer perform, you'll often see them do this, where they actually put their hand over their ear. Some of them will actually put their finger in their ear and close their eyes. And they're actually doing exactly the same thing when they do that as when they have that little tiny speaker that fits in their ear, only with a different purpose. I'm J Loren.
Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast. 5-minute videos, 5 days a week.
I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I have never been a professional singer, although I've been performing since I was in middle school and singing along with choirs and groups. Performed in a lot of different places, both in karaoke and in churches, and I think I was 15 the first time I sang in front of a crowd of absolute strangers, but that was at a Trail Dust restaurant. So no big performance career here, but I have a lot of friends who are actually in worship ministry and things of that nature who are professional vocalists, and by that I mean they get paid to sing. And I've been backstage with people like Corey Morrow and others that get paid to sing. And when you watch them perform, there's an art form to being able to perform and entertain a crowd, to be able to stay on the right pitch and the right tune and follow the beat and the rhythm of the music, and also to be able to recognize that one sound that doesn't sound just right. Now, if you've never done that, I want you to just take your hand for a moment, and there are a couple of ways. One is to kind of build a cup and put it behind your ear. What that's going to do is bring in a lot of sound from around you. You can put your finger in your ear, and now what you're going to hear is what's inside your head, and that's a totally different thing than you've ever heard before. I promise you, if you've never done this, your voice sounds differently when you have your finger in your ear. But then you can also put your cup over your ear and kind of point the open port toward your mouth. And what you're going to hear is more like what everybody out there hears, because your ears don't necessarily point toward your mouth. But the minute you put your hands here, what you hear is more like what everybody else hears. So unless you have a very powerful, well-balanced and EQ'd sound system with monitors attached to your microphone, you probably don't hear what everybody else hears. Here's a good example of that. Go to anybody who's doing video for the first time on Facebook Live, and their audio probably doesn't sound like they want it to sound. And in fact, you can just raise your hand right now if you've ever recorded a video and then gone back later and went, oh my God, it's not loud enough, or you can't hear it, you can't understand what they're saying, or I can't understand myself when I watch that video back. See, there's a reason that we need people around us. Yesterday, I was engaged in 2 different conversations, totally irrelevant to each other. They had nothing to do with each other, in that the 2 people I was talking to didn't know anything about the other conversation, the context of the conversation, or the purpose of the conversation. But in one of those conversations, the challenge was a business group trying to get some work done, and one of the individuals in that group is so distracted with the politics of what's going on with COVID-19 that honestly, their mind, their occupation, their time, their energy, their emotions is dragged into this deep abyss of political commentary. Right, wrong, or otherwise, I'm not trying to agree or disagree with their opinion. All I'm saying is that they're up in a specific opinion that everything else gets blown out. They can't hear anything. Now, if you've ever performed with in-ears, or you've ever performed in a group of people where one person just can't sing, nobody's ever bothered to tell them that, they just can't sing, then you may put your fingers in your ears so you can hear yourself, so you don't have to listen to them. You may do this to go, it's actually on pitch, or you may do this to go, is the crowd booing, or is it just my imagination? But what you don't want to do is be focused in on the one that is so wrapped up in themselves, so far off key, off pitch of everything else that you can't focus. In the other conversation, what we found was there was a whole lot of, here's what I think, what do you think of what I think? And you know what? That's healthy. I believe that's really healthy. As a leadership coach, we have these roundtables, we have mastermind groups, we have sounding boards, we have mentorship, and the purpose for all of that is for someone to, as John Maxwell says, if you've got a new idea or an old idea that's been bouncing around inside for a minute, you're thinking, Is it really a good idea? A sounding board, a mentor, a brainstorm, a mastermind will allow you to take that idea for a walk, taking your dog out for a walk and show it off and let people go, yeah, that's a pretty ugly dog. I think it actually might be a cat. Or it might let you take that idea out. People are like, well, I like that idea, but what if you just tweak this or added that or changed this? How much better would your idea be? Or, I hear you saying that, but it really sounds like what you're saying is more like this. It would be a better way to articulate it. And in that second conversation, there were a lot of ideas that came up that were ideas that I've heard expressed before, but they were literally word for word someone else's ideas. And this individual was saying, well, I'm not sure I completely agree with that. I'm like, well, you probably would if it was said more like this. And they're like, yeah, that I agree with. And see, here's my fear in this, especially in this time of isolation, is that we find ourselves in an echo chamber where rather than listening really close and focusing on what we're actually saying, we're hearing a lot of what's going on immediately around us. We're allowing our emotions to get caught up. I was reading the post of a young man who used to work at one of the campuses of the church that we belong to, and the litany of profanities in his Facebook post right now, I just look at it, I'm like, whoa, how did he go from on staff at the church to, oh my gosh, I wouldn't want to stand 5 feet from him in a club or a restaurant because I wouldn't want to listen to that very long. Oh, what changed there? And the truth of the matter is that what changed was the echo chamber. What changed was the people that are speaking into their life have changed. Good, bad, or otherwise, it's your judgment, it's your opinion, but if you surround yourself only with people who are thoroughly convinced of one idea and can't hear other ideas, it won't be long before, well, you're thoroughly convinced of the same idea and you can't hear other ideas. If you don't isolate yourself for a moment, listen to yourself for a moment, if one person is singing off key in the choir, you're either going to correct that one person or everyone in the choir is going to be singing off key, because just like attitude, thoughts can be contagious. They get repeated, right, wrong, or otherwise. Opinions, they get repeated, right, wrong, or otherwise. And it's really easy to hear someone articulate a talking point or a political notion or an emotional response and think, yeah, I feel just like that. Thinking through it and going, hang on, is that even my voice? Would I say it like that? Do I really even think like that? And if I think through that idea and I throw it out on the table, do I still believe that? See, I've experienced in my own life, in my own thought processes, those times that I've had an idea and I've thrown it out on the table and I was thoroughly convinced, emotional, passionate, vibrant, loud even about my idea. Later to be enlightened by another experience or another group of study or someone who had spent more time thinking about that idea than I had, only to find out my idea was pretty stupid. Oh, I owned it. I was passionate about it. I could convince, but I was wrong. And I'm challenging you as leaders in this time to understand that there's a whole lot of political movement going on in this COVID-19. Some good, some bad. A lot of societal change going on in this COVID-19 arena of life. Some good, some bad. Some will radically transform our society for generations to come. Don't take that lightly and don't believe that I'm using hyperbole. There are things happening right now in our society and our culture that will impact generations. The new normal is not anything like what we've seen as normal in our lifetimes. And what our grandkids experience as normal will not be anything we recognized when we were their age. We've got to keep the conversation going. We've also got to listen really closely to what we're hearing around us and listen to our own voice and ask the honest question, Is this an echo chamber? Am I simply repeating everything that I'm hearing around me, good, bad, or otherwise? Is this a sounding board? Do I really get a chance to throw my ideas out there and then kind of lay them on the table and everybody discuss the good, the bad, and the otherwise? Is this a mastermind or a brainstorm where everybody's throwing their ideas out and we're all kind of working together for a greater idea? And if you can't distinguish the difference, you need to do that today. Get a mentor, get in a small group, get in a book study, get in a mastermind, find a sounding board, get out of the echo chamber where everybody thinks and believes exactly like you, and find some space to challenge yourself to listen close to your voice. And I'm telling you, if you've never done it, take some time today and just put your hand over the cup of your ear and let your voice go into your ear and ask yourself, am I really sounding like I think I sound? Am I really saying what I deeply believe? Or am I just piping off with what I've heard from everybody else? I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.